Picture this. Two friends walk out of the same college graduation ceremony on the same day. Same school, same degree. They shake hands, take photos with their families, and promise to stay in touch. Fast forward exactly 10 years. One of them just paid cash for a car. The other one is still paying off the graduation dinner. And here's the part that will mess with your head. Either one of them thinks they made bad decisions. That gap, that silent divergence that happens in your 30s while you're busy living your life, is exactly what we're going to talk about today. Because the numbers behind where the average 30-year-old actually stands financially right now are not just surprising. They are, in some ways, a quiet emergency that nobody is talking about loudly enough. Let's start with the raw data, because I want you to feel the weight of this before we go any further. According to Federal Reserve survey data, the median American between the ages of 25 and 34 has approximately $14,000 in retirement savings. Not $140,000. Not even $40,000. $14,000. And the median net worth for that same age group hovers around $39,000. A number that sounds acceptable until you realize it's heavily skewed by people who inherited a car or received equity in a home purchase. Strip those away, and you're looking at a generation that is, in large part, starting from scratch in their mid-30s. And this isn't a failure of intelligence. These are college-educated, working, ambitious people. So what is actually happening here? The answer lies in something behavioral economists call present bias. Your brain is wired, through tens of thousands of years of evolution, to treat today as infinitely more real than tomorrow. A dollar today feels physically heavier than $10 in 20 years. This isn't a character flaw. It's neurological. When a 30-year-old looks at their paycheck and weighs the choice between contributing to a 401k they can't touch for 30 years versus paying down a credit card balance that's generating guilt every single month, the brain almost always chooses the emotionally immediate option. The retirement account feels like fantasy. The credit card debt feels like a house on fire, so they put it out, and they feel responsible for doing it. But here's the thing they don't realize until much later. They just made a decision that will cost them more than they can currently imagine. Let me show you exactly how invisible this is. The average 30-year-old who has $14,000 saved today and never adds another dollar will have roughly $107,000 by age 65, assuming a historical average market return. That sounds decent until you understand that most financial planners suggest you need somewhere between $1.20 and $1.5 million to retire with any real comfort. Which means the gap isn't small. It's not a few missed contributions. It's a chasm that grows wider every single year they wait. And the most brutal part, most 30-year-olds don't feel behind. Studies consistently show that people dramatically overestimate how much they've saved relative to their peers, and they underestimate how much they actually need. They feel average. They are average. And average, right now, is not okay. But here's where the story gets more layered and more interesting, because the 30-year-olds who are building real wealth aren't doing anything dramatically different in their careers. They're not all tech workers or trust fund recipients. They're operating from a fundamentally different mental framework, and the core of that framework is something I describe as asymmetric urgency. They feel urgency about their future the same way most people feel urgency about their bills. When someone with credit card debt at 24% interest wakes up in the morning, that balance is on their mind. It has weight. It has psychological presence. The person building wealth has trained themselves to feel that same pressure about compound interest, but in reverse. They feel the opportunity cost of not investing the way most people feel the pain of debt. And that psychological shift changes every financial decision they make. Now think about where most of a 30-year-old's money actually goes. The data tells a story that's almost poetic in how predictable it is. Housing consumes, on average, about 30% of take-home pay. Transportation takes another 15 to 18%. Food, subscriptions, lifestyle expenses, student loan payments. By the time you add it all up, the average 30-year-old has somewhere between 5 and 12% of their income left over. And from that sliver, they're expected to build retirement savings, an emergency fund, and some form of investment portfolio. The math is genuinely hard. But here's the distinction that separates the people who figure it out from those who don't. It's not about finding more money. It's about deciding what comes first. Wealthy builders treat their investment contribution like a bill. It goes out before they have a chance to spend it. They automate it. They make it invisible. For everyone else, investing is what happens with the leftovers. And most months, there are no leftovers. There's another variable buried in these savings statistics that almost nobody talks about: the lifestyle acceleration problem. Your 20s are generally lean by necessity. Ramen budgets, shared apartments, hand-me-down furniture. But the moment a 30-year-old lands a real salary, something changes. The car gets upgraded. The apartment gets bigger. The restaurant choices get more expensive. And each of those upgrades arrives with what feels like a completely logical justification. You worked hard for this. You deserve it. You're finally making real money. This is called lifestyle inflation, and it is the single most efficient wealth destroyer for high-earning 30-year-olds. A person making $90,000 a year who has quietly inflated their lifestyle to cost $87,000 a year is only marginally better off than someone making $45,000 who's living on $44,000. The income number looks dramatically different. The savings trajectory doesn't. Here is the counterintuitive truth that the data keeps pointing to. The gap between the average 30-year-old and the ones quietly building real wealth is almost never income. A Federal Reserve analysis found that households earning similar incomes can have wildly different net worths, not because of investment returns, but because of savings rate and timing. Two people earning the same salary over the same 10-year period can end up with a 300% difference in net worth purely based on when they started investing and how consistently they continued. 300%. Same job, same paycheck, completely different financial reality. The variable isn't what you earn, it's when you decide to take it seriously. And this brings me to the moment I want you to actually sit with. Most people plan to get serious about money someday, after they pay off the car, after the kids are in school, after the next raise, after things settle down. But there is a mathematical reality operating in the background of all that someday thinking. Every year you wait in your 30s costs you more than a year you waited in your 20s, because the compound growth window shrinks and the returns that would have built on top of earlier contributions simply never happen. They're not delayed, they're gone. That someday calculation is one of the most expensive beliefs a person can hold, and most people never stop to run the actual numbers. Here's what I want you to take away from all of this. The average 30-year-old is not lazy or irresponsible. They're operating inside a system that never explicitly taught them how money actually behaves over time. They're fighting real biological instincts, real lifestyle pressures, and a financial culture that profits enormously from keeping them spending rather than saving. But none of that means it's too late. The 30s are actually one of the most powerful decades to build wealth, precisely because your income is rising, your habits aren't fully locked in, and compound interest still has 3 full decades to do its work. The people who understand this, not as an abstract concept, but as a visceral, felt reality, make different choices, not dramatic ones, quiet, consistent, boring ones, and 10 years later they're the ones who paid cash for the car. Now here's the question I want to leave you with, and I genuinely want you to think about this. Not just scroll past it. What would change about your financial decisions this month if you felt your future savings opportunity the same way you feel your current bills? Drop your honest answer in the comments below. I read every single one, and I think this is a conversation worth having out loud rather than just in your head. If this kind of thinking is what you're looking for, not motivation, but real financial insight with actual data behind it, then subscribing to Noah Invests is the most valuable thing you can do with the next 3 seconds. New videos go up every week, and the next one might be exactly the one that changes how you think about money forever.